Butler County's 3 commissioners continually strive to provide quality services that improve the lives of every county resident. This year, there's going to be a new face on the panel, joining incumbents Cindy Carpenter and Donald Dixon. The Democratic candidate is Jodi Billerman, the Republican candidate T.C. Rogers, who beat Courtney Combs and Republican incumbent Chuck Furman in the March primary. Billerman is a UC graduate who was editor-in-chief of the News Record while a student. She's now Public Relations and Communications Director for Education Resource Consultants of Ohio.
As a leader of government, what do you do when the money runs out? Do you raise taxes or do you cut costs or both?
Naturally, the preference, Kurt, is to cut costs. We've been left in an interesting situation in Butler County right now where we're cutting and cutting and cutting, but thanks to reductions in local government funds from the state, as well as some interesting choices in terms of debt load, we're going
Butler County's 3 commissioners continually strive to provide quality services that improve the lives of every county resident. This year, there's going to be a new face on the panel, joining incumbents Cindy Carpenter and Donald Dixon. The Democratic candidate is Jodi Billerman, the Republican candidate T.C. Rogers, who beat Courtney Combs and Republican incumbent Chuck Furman in the March primary. Billerman is a UC graduate who was editor-in-chief of the News Record while a student. She's now Public Relations and Communications Director for Education Resource Consultants of Ohio.
As a leader of government, what do you do when the money runs out? Do you raise taxes or do you cut costs or both?
Naturally, the preference, Kurt, is to cut costs. We've been left in an interesting situation in Butler County right now where we're cutting and cutting and cutting, but thanks to reductions in local government funds from the state, as well as some interesting choices in terms of debt load, we're going to have to cut even more at this point. My preference, absolutely to cut costs. There are, however, services we're going to have to provide for people, so we're going to manage those costs as the best that we can. Thank you, Kurt.
I'm a business owner in Butler County, and I'm always concerned about the number of businesses that leave the community. If you're elected county commissioner, what will you do to retain the businesses that are currently here? And what will you do to ensure that we can bring new businesses, high-tech businesses, into this community?
That is an excellent question, Sandra. My idea for retaining businesses is to ensure, of course, that we are providing the services that are necessary to maintain this community, the health of this community, and the vibrancy of it. What I will say about bringing business in, what I have seen and what I wish to avoid is giving away the store. We have brought in some businesses basically at public expense. We have sold $5 widgets for $1 on some occasions. What I would very much like to see is that we examine closely the return on investment when we bring in new companies, when we bring in and attract development. Now, we do have an excellent positioning with regard to Cincinnati. I would like to see us become more of a destination community and less of a ring county. I think that we can do that, but we can do it also keeping in mind seniors upon whom some of the burden of this public infrastructure has fallen. Sandra, that's an excellent question. I will work closely with the business community, and I support them. I absolutely support them. I just want to make sure we are providing a great return on investment for the taxpayer.
Right outside my doors, we experience homelessness, we experience unemployment, we experience 70 to 85% of our students or our children on free and reduced lunches. But one of the biggest things that we are seeing right now is heroin. Heroin is coming to the Middletown area. We want to know what you are willing to do to help tackle this major addiction, and how we would be able to clean up our community.
Thank you, Pastor, for that question, and that is, of course, a concern. I work in an education environment. I'm always concerned about the welfare of children, have children here myself. Seeing a rise in heroin here is indeed alarming. It's important for the Butler County Commissioners to be supportive of the work that our law enforcement does, including Sheriff Jones, who is deeply concerned, I know, about the rise in consumption of narcotic substances. Thank you for that question. We also really need to make sure we manage our budgets well so that we can provide jobs and family services, so that we are positioned to provide the services that we're tasked. It's our duty to deliver. There are a number of agencies that are overseen by and whose budgets are controlled by commissioners, and I have to come back to sound fiscal management so that we can preserve the assets that are needed to do that work, to do that very important work and address that problem. Thank you, Pastor.
I'm not so much interested in what you're going to do as a Butler County Commissioner, but what I'd like to know is how you're going to behave as you work with your fellow commissioners and the people of the county.
Sandy, that is something that I'm very concerned about. Obviously, we had a $117,000 a year job that went unfilled in an incredible downturn on the economy. That speaks to a toxic work environment that is an embarrassment, frankly. I very much would like to see civility, where we speak to one another, where we openly discuss concerns, where we bring them out, where we work together, where we show respect to everyone who is civic-minded and participating in the process, especially those that we work with, employees. I have heard of things that would indicate a hostile work environment, essentially, and we can do better than that, and we will.
With budgets the way they are, lately I've been hearing more about the concept of metro government. Do you think something like that would work for Butler County?
I think it's distinctly possible that we can combine services to make it cheaper. There's no need to duplicate administration across various government entities, and that could be a great cost savings for us. In terms of metro government, look at the greater Cincinnati region. We do need to work with our fellow ring counties. We do need to work with the larger community, because that is the way that it's moving. Middletown, Hamilton, we are connecting these entities, and once that happens, I think that we will see a complementary effect where good things happen for Butler County.
1 in 6 Butler Countyans face hunger as a way of life. Job and Family Services has received severe funding and staffing cuts. They can't even comply with federal regulations for processing applications for help. I want to know what you're going to do to make sure your constituents have enough to eat every night.
Tina, that matters so much, and I thank you very much for the work that you do. There are so many who do go to bed hungry every night, and I think in an area of plenty, like Butler County, or what seems to be an area of plenty, many people underestimate how little some people get by with. What I would have to say, I have to come back to the fact that we owe $26,000 plus per 1,000 residents. What we have to do is manage this budget better. Right now we're in a difficult position with regard to that. I, as a commissioner, do, however, put people before politics, reality and return on investment before rhetoric, and community before cronies. This matters to me. It took a special boldness, I suppose, to step forth as just another taxpayer, just another resident, to say, we can do better than this. And one of the reasons that I do that is in order to represent those who I do not feel are being represented now. Thank you, Tina.
As a builder, I'm looking for people to move to Butler County and buy lots and build houses. So like a lot of people, I'm tired of politicians that talk the talk but have never actually done what they say they're going to do. So what kind of experience do you have creating jobs, or more importantly, creating an environment that will allow jobs to be created?
The answer to that is good management. We haven't had it. Obviously, we are carrying record loads of debt, and think about people who want to move into this area if their essential services are threatened by mismanagement or just not great management of services. We have some civic-minded people who are serving here, but the results aren't great. If I can't get fire services, if I don't have adequate police protection, if the schools are having difficulty, we have to pull together and speak to one another as a community. Make sure that the things that do attract families, and as you know, schools are included, so are all those essential services, so is maintenance of our property values. Rick, I would love to work with you. I would love to work with the members of this community to ensure that we are that kind of dynamic community that attracts new residents.
In Butler County, what is your opinion on sharing services to save taxpayers' dollars, and what services would you consider sharing?
Things that we can consider combining, we can combine some administration of services that are kind of breaking the backs of smaller communities throughout Butler County. We can look at combining fire, we can look at combining some police departments, we can look at we've got to make sure that we've got adequate ambulance going out to people. There are a number of things that we can do to reduce overhead costs and provide better service to community residents. I would have to consider the balance with regard to that as we look at the needs of these various communities, who is underserved and who is looking primarily for cost savings. So that is absolutely something I look forward to working with community members on. Thank you.
We have a serious traffic congestion problem in Oxford because a major U.S. highway runs right through the middle of town and right through the middle of Miami University's campus. So I wonder what you would do to maybe address the problem and look into the possibility of a bypass that would run around the town.
I think that's a great idea, Jim, and I would look forward to working with the Butler County engineer and perhaps approaching larger regional, looking to the State House, looking to various larger entities, because that's going to take more than just Butler County to make it happen. It's also something that we can't necessarily afford at the moment without reaching out to those larger entities, because I don't know if everyone's aware of this, but our transportation district funds have already been downgraded by Moody's. We're got to address our debt ratio at the moment before we would be able to invest a lot of resources in a major new infrastructure. That said, I think that that is outstanding. I know that Hamilton lost some employers that we could really stand to still have because we were a little too slow to get 129 running out to Hamilton. And so it's something that I very much would like to work toward. Given our debt right at the moment, I'm not sure it's something that we could do alone. But thank you very much for the question, and I think that we can make that happen. It would take time and reaching out.
The future site of the Liberty Town Square is less than 10 miles away from the Voice of America Center, the Bridgewater Falls Shopping Center, and the Tri-County Mall. Many people believe that this new project will hurt these existing businesses. Knowing this, do you still believe that this new development should be built?
I think it's well underway, and I think it's going to happen. But you raise a very excellent point, and one that I raised at the Tea Party Candidates Forum in Westchester back in February. Are we robbing Peter to pay Paul? Are we cannibalizing our retail establishments? As I said, that's well underway. I don't think that I have the power to control it at this point, but we're going to have to watch very closely the outcome of this, and it will give local residents pause to think about our retail versus industrial mix. We're getting a little retail heavy, and it's distinctly possible that we just may be hollowing out Bridgewater Falls and other retail establishments. Thank you for that question. I think it's a great concern, and moving forward, it's my intention to make absolutely certain that we are not cannibalizing ourselves in Butler County.
As County Commissioner, how would you balance the large amount of growth with the limited resources to keep Butler County an attractive place to live?
Kayla, that's a great question. My intent is to sit in these meetings, talk to these fellow commissioners, but beforehand, as a former reporter, do my homework. Looking at return on investment is how we ensure that we have a good balance of investment, which is wise, provided that we are ensuring some benefit comes back to taxpayers. If that's not the case, we're giving things away. That has already happened. It's my intent to work with the other leaders in this community to ensure that we don't do that anymore.
Bypass 4 and Route 4 in Fairfield have been re-engineered. In my opinion, it's made it worse for small business in this area. What are you going to do to rectify a situation like this?
Well, first of all, I'd ask you, what about it made things worse for small business? It's difficult to address a problem without knowing specifically what it is that concerns you. I've spoken to a lot of members in the community who don't particularly like the way that it's been re-engineered, but I would really like to talk to you personally about what it is that you feel has made it worse for small businesses, because you can't fix something you don't acknowledge, and gathering that sort of input is exactly what I'd like to do as a commissioner. My name is Jodi Billerman, and I am running for Butler County Commissioner because I looked at the available choices and I did not feel represented. I did my homework, I began speaking about it, and a number of people said, "Oh, you should run." Okay, I will, and I am. This is about balance. Builders are quite well represented on the Butler County Commission with Don Dixon. Do we want 2 of 3 seats to be held by one segment of society? I'm here to represent the taxpayers of Butler County, the families, the seniors on fixed incomes who see a threat to their ability to stay in this area and to thrive here. For 30 years, this commission has been dominated by that small segment, which had no real accountability, no fear of losing. And so I'm running. Our county has suffered debt, scandals, convictions, and has displayed a bit of taking the voter for granted. We owe $26,000 per 1,000 residents when peer counties owe an average of 86. Warren County owes none. I'm committed to putting people before politics, reality and return on investment before rhetoric, and my community before cronies. My name is Jodi Billerman, and I'm probably the best candidate that you had never heard of before today. I ask for your support. Thank you.
Early voting is set to begin in Ohio, but before you cast your ballot, make sure you've read up on the candidates' positions on the key issues so your vote's going to be an informed decision. Tom McKee, 9 News in Hamilton.